finding my wife in Houston would be nice. It would be nice. But I'm realizing it's going to take a lot of patience. My interactions with the ladies here so far have been interesting, to say the least, and it's only been a month. In this episode, I'll share some of my interesting experiences with the ladies of Houston and what it's taught me so far. Let's parlay. What's going on, family? Appreciate you guys tuning in for another episode of Let's Parlay. We are rocking and rolling here in Houston. I will eventually, with time, when I have the capacity to do such, invest in more of a studio setup. But right now, we're thugging it out in the apartment that me and my brother are in right now. And yeah, the lighting and all that sort of stuff kind of is what it is. But let's get past all of that logistical nonsense. I want to give you what you've been probably waiting to hear, which are my experiences here with the ladies in Houston. Now, if you follow me on social media, you probably saw me post or drop a post about the men of God here in Houston and how my experiences here have kind of indicated that there's a lot of men of God who claim to be men of God and use that to their own advantage to get whatever they desire, whether it be in, romantic partnership or just in intimacy. It's pretty wild out here. And the reason why I say that is because of my experiences that I've had. So in that social media post, I went over those things very quickly, those experiences. In this episode, I'm going to dive into a little bit more of the specifics and give you some more context to some of those stories, because I feel like it'll just make it even more clear that there's a problem here in Houston when it comes to Christian dating, or when it comes to people claiming to be of God, people claiming to follow Christ and using that to their own advantage. So yeah, let's talk right about it. Let's dive in. So I had gotten invited to one of these like fitness boot camps, and then from there I got invited to one of their workouts, and it's a wonderful gym, great community. And while I was there, I'm just being friendly, introducing myself to people, and we're going through different stations, right? So I was partnered up with one of the guys, the ladies are partnered up with the ladies, and we just bounce from station to station. So while I was doing one exercise, I don't have my Oura ring on now, but it's is it charged up? Nope, it's not charged, so I'm not gonna take it off of the charger. But I wear an Oura ring, which is just a health monitoring device that you can get so much information from it. It tracks your sleep, your body temperature, all sorts of different things. It's very cool. Highly recommend it. They're not a sponsor of the podcast, but maybe one day. And yeah, I was wearing that on my middle finger, and that's what I got it sized for, is to stay on my middle finger. So while I was working out, this young lady there who I hadn't had an interaction with since I had been working out, but she looked at me and she said, "Is that your wedding band?" And she was like, because a lot of guys they be putting their wedding band on the wrong finger, just to act kind of crazy. And I was like, I guess I was so shocked I didn't really know how to respond. So the first thing that I did was just explain what it was. I was like, "Oh no, this is an Oura ring. This measures like my health and tracks all that sort of stuff." And I didn't even put together in the moment what that really was implying. But that was like the first that it wasn't like hello, it wasn't nothing like that. It's just straight to it. And I thought it was funny, and I thought she was funny. And if she ever watches this, I hope she can get a laugh out of it. But I thought it was just like a huge indictment on her experiences with the guys here in Houston. So there apparently are men who will go into the gym putting their wedding band on a different finger so that they can come off as available and then do whatever afterwards as a result. And that to me is just, that's really, really sad to hear. And, when I spoke to that young lady, she was super sweet and all that sort of stuff. But you could tell that she had probably been through quite a bit here in Houston when it comes to dating and interacting with men. And that is just a darn shame, a darn shame. So that was my first experience, one of my first experiences with the ladies out here in Houston. And I was like, oh, wow. Like, even for me not to initiate it, but for it to have just come to me, that way was just, I thought that was a huge indictment. So that's story number one. Story number two, I was at a co-working event, and again, just, chatting, trying to talk to people, have conversation. And for those of you who have been following along and know me, I have made some really big changes in my lifestyle. So I don't drink anymore. I've made a vow to God that I won't drink, maybe up until my wedding day. I think that's the only exception that I'll make. And even then, it will probably be just wine. But I've made a vow to not drink or not to consume any THC or anything like that, and to also remain sexually pure until, I'm in the right situation to do that, which is marriage. So, yeah, and then on top of that, I don't really go out. I don't really watch a lot of TV. A lot of my time is spent either talking to family, especially now that I've been in Houston for a bit of time. I've been trying to find more wholesome events, more faith-based events, run clubs, community events, things of that nature. And if I do consume anything, it might be on YouTube, and a lot of it is just me trying to learn more about Houston. So that's where my mind is. So I go to this event, and I'm chatting with one of the young ladies there, and she was asking me a bunch of questions about like certain shows. She's like, "Oh, do you know about this show?" And I was like, "No, I've never heard of that show." She's like, like just kind of gasping, just in complete shock. And then I told her like, I don't drink and stuff. There was alcohol being served at the event. And I told her like, yeah, like I'm probably going to leave soon because, I like to get to bed before or a little after 9. And she was just like staring at me like, what do you, it's almost as if like I was some sort of like prehistoric creature. You know what I mean? Like when you look at something, you kind of like trying to figure it out. Like that's how she was looking at me. She was like, what do you mean? She's like, I'm trying to figure you out. And I'm like, oh, I just, I'm a man of God. I really try to follow through with this stuff. And that was also an indictment. I mean, obviously every woman is, probably experiencing whatever they're, attracting in whatever environments that they're in. So who's to say that maybe she's just maybe in the wrong environments? But to see her just visceral reaction that she's never met someone like this, or at least a man like that, like I thought that was very interesting as well too. And then I've had multiple. This is the third story, or this is the third scenario that I'll run out to you. But I've had multiple of these happen. This next one that I'm about to tell you, where I say, yeah, I'm a man of God. I really don't engage in that, or I try to just stay away from those environments or whatever have you. And I've had multiple women, and real like they say it jokingly, but I'm pretty sure they're serious. Where they're like, "Oh yeah, I've heard that before. Y'all be the worst ones." And I'm like, "Oh, dang, that's unfortunate. Really unfortunate. Really unfortunate. I've had it happen on multiple occasions where there is just like this humorous doubt, like, yeah, you you probably you ain't really about it. They're like, I think I even had one girl tell me, just give us some time. You've only been here for a month. And I'm like, oh man, that's really disheartening. I mean, it's funny because of obviously the delivery, but the context of the situation is unfortunate. It is unfortunate, and especially when you meet women who are believers, who are actually pursuing God with all of their heart, and they're the ones saying it, because that more than likely you would like to assume that they're probably meeting men in an environment where you should expect to receive someone who actually meets God's standard or is attempting to meet God's standard. And to see that their response is just so visceral. I mean, it's like, yeah, whatever. Like that sort of vibe, that is very telling. And then I had one other experience that sort of encapsulates all of this, and it verified it for me. And I didn't share this in the post that I had dropped on social media, on my Instagram or on my TikTok. So this is the first time that I'm going to be sharing this story. But yeah, I don't want to make it too obvious who I'm speaking about, but I met a young man who goes to church every Sunday, and it was the first time that I was meeting him. So, it's not like I'm a friend, or this is just someone I've met for the first time. And he goes to church every Sunday, goes to a pretty big and popular church, and very successful, does well for himself in his career and in his profession. And I mean, to hear him speak about his dating experience, because at first, it was me and a couple other guys talking about how, like, oh man, it's tough to date out here, especially when you're trying to find, someone righteous and someone who's not like just lusting after things and all that. And then he started sharing some of his dating experiences, and he was like, yeah, man, like I spent like $1,000 on the first date with a girl I went on, and I was like, no, why'd you do that? Like, why do you need to spend $1,000? He's like, yeah, I took her to a Rockets game and then dinner and all that, and then never heard from her again. And I was like, oh, all right, well, and I kind of just put that past him. I was like, yeah, that's obviously not how I would go about it, but nonetheless, that is what it is. But then as we continue to talk, it became very clear that there might have been different motives that he had in his dating experience. Even though he may be looking or saying he's looking for, someone serious, the actions don't necessarily match up, right? So we started talking about, different types of women in the marketplace and whatnot. And then single moms came up. And then this guy mentions, oh yeah, like I get with single moms pretty easily because, they're just easier when it comes to like, and I'm going to put it in my own wholesome words, but getting intimate with single moms is easier for him. And I was just like, yeah, so you're the one that they're talking about. And again, like someone who goes to church every Sunday, proclaims Jesus, but is just not following through the way that represents Christ. And to me, it's probably even worse than someone who is just like overtly not a believer in acting the way that they are, because at least you can expect that from them. At least you can look at it and be like, okay, I know that this person isn't rooted in the word. So their moral compass and what they think is right and wrong is going to be up to them. So if it's up to their interpretation, then they can make up their own rules. And any person left up to their own devices is bound to make up rules that benefit them, even at the mercy of other people. So you can at least put them in that category, like if you're a woman out there dating. But when you have a man who says that he follows God and has Jesus across his neck on a chain, or puts it on his social media page and then openly talks about it and attends church every week, but then acts like that in the marketplace and is taking advantage of things just for his own, personal, intimate desires, like that is the worst. That is the worst, because then what it does is it completely ruins the expectations for the women in the marketplace, and especially when it comes to the trust and the hope that women would have in dating. Now, I've had similar experiences with women of God too in all of my life, right? But I also wasn't at the place where I was leading with my faith to say, no, I'm not doing this. I was kind of like one foot in, one foot out. So I take full responsibility for any of my past interactions, because I believe it's a man's job to lead in that dating experience. So if you're a man and you're supposed to be leading in this dating experience, proposing things and making plans for things and showing her that, and you're leading her down the route that only, satisfies your personal desires, you're wrong. You're wrong. You're completely wrong. And you're messing it up for everybody. So those are my real big takeaways from this experience, is that there's plenty of bad apples who have ruined the experience for women here in Houston, and especially for the women of God, because I don't think it's their fault when they seek a man of God who says the words but doesn't follow up with the actions. That's a real big problem. And what this is telling me is that I'm going to really need to exercise patience throughout this process, and patience with the women who I'm meeting as well out here. Because if their experience has been such, they're probably going to be waiting for that moment that I slip up or do something that kind of affirms what they've already seen with the men of God out here in the dating marketplace. So, which doesn't, it's fine by me because I'm a very predictable man. Like I'm not outside. You're not going to catch me doing anything. You won't have anyone saying, I mean, at least within the past year, you won't have anybody coming up to you and saying, oh, Monty's moving crazy out here. He's saying this, but doing that. Like, I'm upfront with my faith because I'm walking by it right now through the strength of Christ. Because if it wasn't for him, I wouldn't be doing this. But yeah, I don't really mind that. But I think from my perspective, I can't be super critical or impatient when I have a woman who's maybe a little bit less trusting and you know needing some more time and energy to see if you're actually about it. So those are some of my things that I've taken away. And I think the other thing that I'm going to have to realize is that I'm probably going to have to fight a lot of like my people pleasing side of me and say no more often. Because I think what I've realized is like, especially on social media and stuff like that, like there are women who are going to, take it upon themselves to initiate, and you know, they may claim to be women of God as well too, right? And I'm not saying that, it's everybody across the board is just being super, funny about their game. But if men are moving like that and claiming to be men of God and not necessarily following through, then that will start to impact the women and how they operate as well too. So if that's the case, I got to be careful for myself as well too, because there might be women out here who, and I've already seen it to an extent, but there might be women are out here who say, yeah, like I follow God, this, that, and the third, but then, don't actually follow through with it in practice. So my approach from here on out is just to be friendly, just to be curious, to really ask questions and exercise patience, because I'm realizing it's going to take time to find that woman that I'm looking for. And I've been praying that I will meet the woman I'll marry, a woman of God who I'll marry, and not with any time frame. Obviously, whenever God has it in store for me, whenever it's in His will. But I've been praying very consistently for that for almost about a month, and I was encouraged by one of my married brothers to do that. And one of the pastors out here brought up a very good point where if you're looking for something and if you're wanting more encouragement or more faith to be built up to receive it, you should talk to people who already have it, right? As opposed to being around other people who don't have it or who aren't seeking it, but especially if they just don't have it, because then you're gonna be very comfortable in the fact that y'all are all in the same position, right? So speaking to more married men and more married couples is going to be beneficial for me finding my wife. And one of the things that he shared with me was, "Yo, have you ever tried praying for your wife?" And I was like, "No," but I've heard of multiple people doing that before, and slowly but surely, or immediately afterwards, they found their spouse. So I'm not looking for some sort of magical, genie in a bottle relationship with God where I pray for it and then she just shows up. I know it might take some time and it's going to happen on His will, but I am going to just pray consistently for that. And the other thing that I'll say is when it comes to the logistics of meeting her, I'm kind of all over the place. I mean, mentally, I'll say. As far as like logistically, I'm only going to meet her in one of three places, or maybe one of four places. It's either going to be at church, which I don't really know how that'll happen, but if I am just being social and being friendly and curious, asking questions, introducing myself to people, most people meet their spouses through mutual friends. So I have a feeling that that is the way it could possibly shake down. Uh, the gym, although the gym, you just don't know where people's faith is on that front. So that's where things can get a little dicey. But the gym, grocery store, perhaps. Although I go to Costco at 9 a.m. on the executive membership time. I ain't seeing a lot of, people my age. All right. It's a lot of like 60 and above. And I love them. I love them. Those are my people. I mean, we'll be going down the aisle and like, it's funny because I used to make fun of my mom for doing this and now I'm doing it. But, I'll be like, oh, what you getting over there? Is that good? And it's something that like I never tried before at Costco. And then they'll be like, oh, yeah, you got to try this. Blah, blah. And I'm like, yeah, those are my people. I really enjoy shopping, grocery shopping with the elderly at Costco at 9 a.m. on a weekday. But anyway, I digress. And then, just I think I'm also I'm in a space where I want to initiate the steps when it comes to like dating and proposing, meeting somewhere or whatever. I think what I've also realized is that if in the past, whatever I've attracted there's always been something wrong with not something wrong with the person, but just something misaligned with the person and something that I did not prefer. So I will be taking those steps to initiate those things. And if I'm not initiating those next steps and someone is, I have to be comfortable with denying the proposal, right? Especially if it's not aligned with how God has called me to go about dating. So that is just my approach. Those are my takeaways from dating out here. Those are some of my experiences. I don't know. I mean, for those who live in Houston, let me know if there's anything that you find to be like a glaring, flaw in my observation or just something contrary. If there's married folks out there who can share their experiences of how they met each other, I think that that's always a great thing to hear. So I would love to get your thoughts and perspective in the comments. But other than that, I'm taking my time with this, y'all. Those are my stories. Those are my takeaways. And eventually, I know God will bless me with the woman whom I shall marry, because I have faith. And Lord willing, if I'm alive to experience that, I would be happy to take on that responsibility and start a family, make my parents, grandparents, all that sort of good stuff. But one step at a time, one step at a time. So I appreciate y'all tuning in. And this is this week's episode. Next week, we'll be back at it again on Thursday morning. Stay tuned. God bless.